Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey there, it's your host, Debbie Potts, and I want to give you a little info before we get started on the new episode we have for you today. I'm so excited to share with you that I am a presenter at Ketocon, and it's coming July 8th to July 10th in Austin, Texas, 2022 at the Palmer Event Center. Ketocon is an annual event, usually held in Austin, Texas, and they're the largest conference in the U.S. focused just on the science and the stories of keto. And they'll have 50 speakers and over 250 qualified keyword keto vendors. So there won't be a bunch of keto labeled junk for you. So this is a great conference to be a part of, meet your community, your tribe. It's pretty amazing. And the speakers are impressive. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach when you do keto. As we talk about on this show, the Low Carb Athlete Podcast is about all things keto, but also lifestyle habits. And this conference will give you a lot of information that we are all unique. We all have unique needs and preferences. Ketocon is going to teach us that. It's the absolutely best place to meet your like-minded people, your tribe, your people that you love to connect with in person. Learn about strategies for success and how to gather all the tools that you need to get the support you need to lead this healthy, fit lifestyle, to help you reach your goals to be fit and healthy from the inside out. You'll be surrounded by thousands of people who are equally excited and motivated about improving their lives. So trust me, this is a great event you don't want to miss out on. Use my code Low Carb Athlete, capital L, Low Carb Athlete, all one word, on checkout, and you will get 10% off each ticket in your order. And it will apply to a 1-day, 3-day, or VIP passes. So be sure to click on the link in the show notes, get your ticket, get your airfare while the prices are low, get your hotel rooms close to the conference so you can meet me, and we'll go for morning runs and do some outdoor strength workouts and have a great time, plus eat amazing barbecue. So the code will be active until July 1st, 2022, but I would register now. Get that travel details all set up, and we will see you there, as I will be talking about tips and tricks to fuel, train, and perform as a low-carb athlete. So see you there. And now let's get to the show. Hey, everyone. I'm so excited to have Brock Armstrong on the podcast today. Brock, you did co-host when we were years ago.
That's right. Fit, fat, fast.
We did. I just was writing about this because I was just saying to you, I took a few months off podcasting, kind of get refocused on what I want to target. Centered, grounded. Yes. For 2022. But I realized, I was going back. John Smith started the Fit, Fat, Fast, and he left, and you took over for a little bit. And then I was left on my own to do all this work myself. So you are always changing and evolving and going into different directions to help people. Let's kind of start with what you're doing now and what's your why?
What's my why? I love that. That is one of the questions that I ask so often these days. Not of myself, well, actually of myself, but also of my clients and friends. I think everybody's tired of me saying, but why are you doing that? Why? What is the reason behind that?
Yeah.
You can get pretty annoying with those kind of questions. But what I'm doing right now is I actually, and like you said, I do sort of tend to change tracks very slightly, not as drastically as I used to. When I was younger, I have a history of I'm in a band, now I'm in the ballet, now I'm an actor, now I'm back at school, now I'm web development. I really did enjoy jumping from career to career for most of my life. But more recently, I'm just finding different nuances in ways to help people and to help people figure out where things are falling apart, where their stumbling blocks are. And you and I have a very similar background, endurance sport. We've got our coaching certificates and lots of education and certifications and all that's from all different sorts of places. And at this point in my life, actually, we both just turned 50 as well.
50. I'm not ready to say 50.
What are you saying?
50. 50.
Gotcha.
Or 35,
gotcha.
35 plus 15. I also say too.
So a little bit of denial, but not complete denial. I got it. Okay.
Transition.
Fair enough. But so at this point in my career, I started looking at different certifications I could get and sort of actually looking at what you've taken, because you've really done some great education for yourself and went in some really interesting directions. But then I thought, like we have Debbie exists in the world. We have Debbie Potts. We have people who have done all these other things. What is an unexplored area of fitness, of wellness, of health, of all the great things that we're working towards? And, it was right in front of me, because back in the early 2000s, I had quite deep depression issue and rather debilitating anxiety. Luckily for a short amount of time, I had some really great support that got me pointed in the right direction. But one of the right direction that actually was for me was taking cognitive behavior therapy, was attending some cognitive behavior therapy sessions. And it really, like, it's not an exaggeration for me to say that it changed my life. Like, not only did it help me overcome, actually, I won't even use the word overcome, to manage my depression and my anxiety, but it also gave me a lot of tools to help people as a coach. Like, it gave me that understanding of that, the root of why we do things or the way that we feel things. And it all of a sudden just like, it was like a lightning flash at the beginning of COVID, when lockdown was happening and we weren't really sure, can we go outside? Should we really stay inside all the time? Like, how dangerous is that when we were still in that phase? A lot of people were like taking online courses and getting, like, Udemy, the great online learning platform, actually had these amazing sales going on. You could get these courses that are like $300 for like $20. And so I actually took a cognitive behavior therapy practitioner certification online, because it just all of a sudden dawned on me that if I deepened my understanding of that realm of things, I could really help people in a very different way. Because a lot of the time, like, people like you are out there telling people what they need to be doing, what they should be doing, how they can be helping themselves. But the stumbling block often is that they either can't get started, or they can't keep going, or they can't find a reason to really dig in, and they end up not doing the things that they should do. So I thought, well, what better way to help people in a unique way than to do that? So that's my focus right now. I've got a podcast called The Change Academy that we really just talk about, like, habit forming, lifestyle change, and a lot of cognitive behavior theory. But I also have a new podcast called the Second Wind Fitness Podcast. And that is where I'm really marrying my background in fitness, in movement, and biomechanics, and cognitive behavior theory, and with a particular focus on people who are 5'0" and more. What was it, 36 plus 14?
35, because I had my 35th annual birthday. If you look at my pictures for my birthday, by the way, the cake candles actually said 35. Neil did that. But yeah, it's turning, like, I've been talking a lot about, living my best life, the second half of my life, and embracing the aging process and not blaming it, and making those adjustments to thrive every day, and not use that pet peeve excuse of, oh, I'm getting older, which I hate that reason. It's like, so I've been on the mission to get stronger, and, doing all this new stuff. And like the BFR bands are coming in the mail next week. And I know you're doing that, but like, what are things that you're focusing on? Second Wind Fitness is to live your best self the second half of your life, kind of thing, or what's your focus?
Right. I'm actually calling it the second half of my first century on this planet, because I'm not limiting myself to just like 100. I fully acknowledge, like, my grandmother, who was born in 1901, she actually lived to be 101. And my other grandmother was 97 when she died, and she had had several different kinds of cancer and heart attacks and stuff, and she still lasted. So I feel like I've got some good genes.
Is that because you're working with Dave Asprey a long time? He's living to 130 he strives for?
No, I think he's saying 180, which I think might be a little more than, but he may have been a bit of an inspiration for just sort of at least shunning the idea that 100 is the only thing that we can go for. But I always say, you know what, like people like you and I who are as active as we are, it's probably going to be a bus that kills me rather than old age, because I'll be like riding my gravel bike in the wrong place and at the wrong time, and a logging truck will take me out or something. So barring a disaster like that, I'm not limiting myself. But so yeah, my focus personally is exactly like you said. Like I'll tell a kind of embarrassing story. So on Sunday, I got up, was going about my normal morning stuff, and I went in the bathroom to blow my nose. And it wasn't a big blowing nose. It wasn't even sneezing or anything. I just blew my nose, and my entire right side of my back went into spasm, and it was like frozen in pain and fear. And finally got down to the floor, did some relaxation breathing and stuff, got the muscles to let go. Later in the day, had a hot bath with some white willow bark essential oil in it and stuff. And I've recovered. I'm fine now. But it was one of those things, like I talked to a friend of mine later that day and said, oh, the weirdest thing happened this morning. I blew my nose and my back went into spasm. He's like, oh, what do you expect? You're 50. And that makes me so mad when people say that. It's like, this kind of thing happened to me when I was 20, which either means I was old before my time, age-related issue. And that's the way I try to look at it as well. Like you said, not blaming my age for things, but really taking it as a challenge instead. It's like, we know that certain things happen as we age. And I've been an active person. I've done terrible things to my body, like being a ballet dancer and then being in a band. So one is putting my body into really awkward, biomechanically unsound positions, and then driving around in a van for 6 years, eating at 7-Eleven and Wendy's. Two very terrible things. So yes, my body has been beat up. It's got a history, and that's wonderful. And I'm embracing the fact that I've got that, and taking the steps that need to be taken in order to mitigate that damage that I did to myself and shore up those deficiencies. And of course, there are things that are out of my control, but the things I can control, I'm going to freaking control them. I'm not just going to let them go.
Yeah. Well, that's so true. I think it is, as I said, embrace the change and not blame it, and do things a little differently than we did when we were 30 years old. Is not because I'm older, because of the specific age I'm at, but it's the years of wear and tear, stuff that I've done accumulate. And I need to, tweak it a little bit, what I'm doing. And I also have been looking a lot over the years at my genetic profile, like using DNA Fit and looking at, all right, what is the best way for me to train based on my genetics? And I was doing, Ironmans for so many years that I'm actually 72% power athlete. So
yeah, me
somehow,
too. Yeah.
Are you? Then I'm like, okay, how did I do 15 Ironmans and do, I don't know how many marathons and 50K races that I'm more power, but it's how you train. And I feel like, well, maybe that put more stress and wear and tear on my body because I was training based on endurance goals rather than, doing more power type of training. So now adding more intervals and shorter workouts and more sprints and doing less or fewer reps into my strength training routine and focus on strength gains rather than more cardio that I think people do. So have you, what has changed for you, how you're looking at taking care of the whole you, or maybe how you're also coaching your clients?
Well, at first, I just want, because I know your audience is the type that probably has done the DNA Fit tests as well, or at least like Ancestry or 23andMe or something like that. Have you or anyone out there listening actually met someone who did score high for endurance rather than power? Because I honestly, like Mark Sisson, Brad Kearns, me, you, I think Tawny Prazak said the same thing, all got power athletes, like power and speed and stuff. And these are all people who have done endurance very successfully in the past. And I'm starting to wonder if anyone, like, is that just the human genetic? Is that where none of us are supposed to do these crazy long things, that we all have a disposition, a genetic disposition for power and strength?
I can ask that because as we're recording, I posted my picture of my DNA Fit power endurance response, and I'm 73% power, 27% endurance, which, as we say, it's not do endurance, it's just how I should train for endurance events should be a little differently than typical program. But I did have someone say that they're endurance based, and I did have a client that I'm coaching now. He is more endurance. And so there are some people out there.
There are some people. Okay. That's good to know, because I did start to wonder if this was a bit of not a hoax, but if it was like a bit of a mislabeling or something that we thought that is, there was.
Think of all of those people you just listed. We all did triathlons or endurance events. So, and now we're all following our passion purpose to help other people be healthier, because the way we trained probably wasn't optimal for our own bodies.
Well, and maybe it was for the time, like you said, when you're 30, you were doing particular things, and we all were pretty successful with it. And I don't ever want to look at myself or shame myself, and especially not want to like shame anybody else for the way that they trained or behaved in their younger self, because there's no point in that. But the thing that I'm doing for myself and really helping people do as well, the people I coach and the people who listen to the podcast, is to accept that that's what we did. And it's okay to shift your goals and to shift your focus. In fact, a friend of mine hasn't raced in quite a while. He turned 50 as well, and decided that he told me that he wanted to do an Ironman, qualify for Kona, and go and do it right, because he'd done the Kona World Championships, Ironman World Championships a couple of times, but he never felt like he really enjoyed himself the way that he should. So he really wanted to, felt like unfinished business or something like that. And I said, okay, well, that's interesting. But like, how do you think you're going to feel? Like, what is going to change in your life other than spending a whole lot of time training for the race that you qualify for? Maybe you won't qualify the first time, so you're going to have to continue training. I know being with your family is really important. And I wasn't trying to convince him not to do it, but just reminding him that as we age and as our life progresses, some of those things that were really, really important to us aren't as important to us, but we tend to hold on to them anyway. We tend to really just think, well, I'm an endurance athlete, or I'm a runner, so I should be doing some races. I really should be signing up for some races. I find myself saying that sometimes too, like a race will pop up nearby and I think, yeah, I should sign up for that. And then I think about it, like, no, I really don't enjoy running more than 5 kilometers anymore. Why would I do that to myself? That's ridiculous. So the upshot was, at the end of our conversation, after he went and thought about it for a while, he decided that wasn't really an apt goal for himself. He had much more interesting goals for himself as an individual, but also for his family. They wanted to have this time and do things that are more family specific, and that he was sort of clinging to an idea that was outdated. And I think we need to give ourselves permission to do that sometimes, because we think that just because we're aging, it's like, I don't want to use that as an excuse. I don't want to, like, I was able to do this when I was younger. I just got to keep doing it. And it's not necessarily a matter of not being able to. It's okay to not want to. Like, I love working in my yard now, and I take pride in that, kind of the same way I did when I'd like race a 5K and cross the finish line and feel really good about that. Like, standing back and looking at a garden that's flourishing is great. And both of them are filling that movement prerogative that our biology needs, like to get outside and get the movement and use your body in unique ways. In some ways, actually, gardening is probably more beneficial than just going and running in a straight line as fast as you can with a whole bunch of other people. But not to put that down. I know it sounds like I am. I tend to be a little snarky, but yeah, that's one of the things that I really want to focus on for myself and for other people, is to discover it's not about becoming a couch potato. It's about realizing that our lives have changed, our focus has changed, and that's a good thing. It's not, oh, what a bummer, I can't do marathons anymore. It's like, well, no, but I don't want to do marathons anymore. I actually
Yeah.
want to do this instead. I want to go on a camping trip. I want to go on a biking. My partner and I went on a biking trip through Scandinavia a couple of years ago, and that was just amazing and different and enjoyable in different ways.
So this top conversation is kind of funny because we're kind of organically just talking about things, but it's going into a huge topic that I think it'd be good to address. In my video, I look like I'm disappearing, but I'm in the fog and my camera's gone weird.
You look very angelic.
Oh yeah, I know, I'm like an angel. So I won't start singing. But this is a huge topic. I think a lot of our listeners, I would like to get out there is that when do you decide to, listen to your body, listen to those red flags. I've been talking every day about really like when to fast and not to fast, like when to eat before a workout or not eat, all this fasted exercise is getting confusing for people, but also when not to eat or not to eat, when not to train or race. So I'm calling it, I actually got the website domain intuitive fueling and intuitive training. And it's almost like Jamie Moore and I were just podcasting about intuitive fasting, that I think so many people forget to listen to their own body, to their red flags. When is too much? When are you doing too much on your body that's causing more harm than good? As we've talked before about kind of adrenal exhaustion and the black hole training and all that, but also go into when we don't need to do another Ironman and a marathon and all that long distance stuff. And I think so much of it all kind of goes in. I'd like to hear your take on it as a cognitive specialist now is looking at the why behind it. Psychologically, why do we feel guilty if we break a fast at 9 a.m. instead of I was going to go to 11 a.m. And when I want to not eat before a workout, but I'm supposed to do faster workout because I'll burn more fat and I'll be tougher if I don't eat anything for a 3-hour bike ride, and then do an Ironman, even though my knees or my ankles are worth crap and I'm going to do it anyway. So I think it's like, when do you just say, I'm good, I've had enough. I'm going to do gardening and I'm going to do shorter workouts, but still enjoy that feeling I get from swimming, biking, and running and being in the outdoors, and replace that with other things. Like now we have an acre property and a ton of yard work, and I have no idea about gardening, and I started doing that. So you're still getting in the outdoors. I'm still getting outside at sunrise and moving at lunchtime. And so what do you think is kind of that cognitive behavior for that type A, AAA driven, ambitious, high performing individual, when to say, okay, I'm done. I'm retired as an Ironman or marathon or endurance athlete, and switching to other activities and letting that go and not feeling guilty?
Yeah, I'm so happy that you're covering this topic. You're thinking about this topic and bringing Jimmy Moore into the conversation too, that he's thinking about this topic, because, I accept a lot of the blame for some of this behavior. I think people, like in our history as podcasters, I worked with Ben Greenfield and Mark Sisson and Mark Devine and Katie Bowman and Tony Prazak and you, and like all of these different people. And over the years, we spent so much time highlighting the scientifically proven way to do this. And in a lab, this was shown to be the most effective thing. And that's wonderful that we have that information, that we're able to see what the actual science is and what's happening in our biology, and the physiologists who are studying this stuff. It's wonderful work, but it becomes prescriptive to the point where, and I recognized this back years ago when I was still working for Ben Greenfield, and I was the one who would go through the emails and vet the questions that we were going to answer on the podcast and on the social media channels and stuff. And it got to the point where they seemed to be terrified to do anything without checking first, without making sure it was the perfect workout or the perfect meal, or they were really just afraid to fail. They got to a point where they had to make sure, they had to run it past somebody like Ben before they felt confident in doing it. And at a certain point, I think we have to accept responsibility as the conveyors of this information to say, like, you know what, like, this is what the science says, but no one can tell you what your biology is doing in your particular life with your particular habits and your particular stressors and sleep levels and all of those things. You have to try it for yourself and realize that it's never going to be absolutely perfect, but that's okay. Like, it's, our biology is so much more resilient than that we don't have to nail everything every single time. Sometimes going to the gym and lifting too light is better than going to the gym and lifting too heavy. So it's okay to make those mistakes, make those adjustments, learn from our so-called failures, and give ourselves permission to do something like, you know what, like I was planning to fast until 11 today, which that's me. I actually am. I'm just having black coffee right now. And I did a cold dip in the ocean before we started this. But there are days when I only make it to about 9 a.m. And I think, you know what, I'm clearly getting scatterbrained. My cortisol level is definitely going up because I'm feeling like my day is overwhelming already and it's only 9 a.m. I'm going to eat. And that's just giving yourself the permission to actually make some mistakes, to push a little bit too far and maybe get to that point where you know that you've gone too far, but also to pull the plug a little bit too early, because, you know, there's a great thing about our bodies, and that's that we adjust to the thing that we do most often. Not our best days, not our worst days. We're a product of the things that we do most often. So remembering that, and sometimes having your absolute best day or having your absolute worst day, but using those as a way to learn and then feed those more consistent times in between your best and worst days. That's where you're going to get the magic. That's where everything really happens. So I think, like, from a cognitive behavior standpoint, that idea of giving yourself permission to fail and to learn from that failure, and to really to treat yourself as an experiment, put on your lab coat, put on your nerdy glasses and your pocket protector, and treat yourself as your own experiment to figure out what really works for you in that moment, and then remain malleable because it's going to change from time to time, is really one of the greatest messages I think we can give ourselves, to, like, learn from the science because it's wonderful and educational, but focus on yourself. Use yourself as your main experiment.
So much to unpack, but I think the big thing is there, right there. The science is what I'm trying to go through, is that the science is based on studies, often on
20-year-old college students,
20-year-old
mostly dudes.
Yeah, exactly. On
not
guys.
Me, not you.
Yeah, that's a thing. People look at these studies, and I work for Ben Coaching, and so I look at all this. I mean, my job is to read all his stuff, and he does all the science research and has the links to everything. I look at it, and then I look at who's it based on. Yeah. So it's just a template to start with, and then adjust it, personalize that information based on your N=1 experience, and experiment with that, figure out what works and what doesn't work, but it's going to be different for everybody and every day. Like today, yes, I did have something to eat, and I broke my fast earlier than pushing it to, usually I don't eat till after I podcast, but I'm swimming at noon. It's 10:30. I ran this morning and I lifted weights last night. And so I stopped eating about 3:30 yesterday. So my old me would be like, okay, I'm not going to eat till 11 something, but I can't really eat and I go swimming. So I'll just push through it and not eat till 1:30, but then I have 1:30, 2:30 meetings. So then I wouldn't eat until 3:30. Right. So it's like, is that good for me? So what I'm trying to share with people is what you're doing now actually working? Is that helping you lose weight or improve your health optimization by doing a cell autophagy fast? Is it helping your workouts? And I think a lot of times people forget to ask that question to themselves. Is this doing me any benefit? Yeah. Being so hard on themselves, pushing through that.
Well, and they do tend to, we have this idea that we blame ourselves if it's not working because, well, the science says this should be working, but I'm not losing weight. So, well, I just have to do it harder, I guess. Like I've got to go instead of 14 hours, I got to do 16 hours, or I've got to do 18 hours. Like, because clearly it's my fault because the science is saying that this should be working. I should be losing fat and gaining muscle and stuff. And, you know, I run a weight loss program called Way Less, which is all behavior change and lifestyle exploring and stuff. We don't do any meal plans or exercise plans or anything in that program. And we end up getting people who have done Weight Watchers like 7 or 8 times for that exact reason. They'll do Weight Watchers, experience a little bit of success, and they'll go off of it, gain a bunch of weight, and then they'll go back on and do it again. And they'll do this repeatedly because we do blame ourselves and think, well, I just have to do it harder next time, instead of going, okay, you know what? That sucks. Like, that didn't work. And accept that you're not the problem. The problem is that whatever you were doing wasn't appropriate for you in this particular part of your life, and try something else. And again, I think that comes down to being willing to experiment on yourself, and also being willing to fail and learn, not fail and double down and triple down and quadruple down. So yeah, it is an interesting thing that we've gotten ourselves into a fear-based situation that has really set us up for failure, because we just, what is Albert, I think it was attributed to Albert Einstein. I don't know if he said it. The internet is completely unreliable for this kind of thing, but trying to solve the same problem, or trying to solve
the definition of insanity is
that's the one. Yeah.
I say that all the time since last 2 years when our world changed.
yeah Trying to solve the problem by doing doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That's right. Sorry, I shouldn't be drinking coffee while I'm podcasting, but so I applaud all of that. The idea that we can learn from science and get some really good places to start, and some good information about how our body may or may not work, but then running the experiments on ourselves, and getting back to, I guess, your whole why question right off the top. There's this great tool in cognitive behavior therapy where you don't ask yourself why just once. Like, whenever you're making a decision, or you've realized that you've eaten all the cookies in the house and your goal was to only eat one, ask yourself why, but don't stop there, because often the first why is superfluous. It's obvious. It's not very meaningful. So, okay, you ate all the cookies in the house. You were only planning to eat one. Well, why? Well, I was hungry. Well, were you really that hungry? Like, why did you choose cookies? Well, I can't resist cookies. Like, oh, okay, well, why do you think you can't resist cookies? What is it about cookies? Well, they were always a childhood treat that my mom would give me when I was feeling blue. And like, oh, okay, well, why these cookies then? Like, did your mom make these cookies? And just, you can see how you can get to much deeper and deeper levels. And in the end, often it has nothing to do with the cookies. Like, we have gotten, when you get through those whys, and I always say, like, at least do 5 levels before you stop. It's called 5 whys for a reason. You can keep going, but yeah, it often isn't at all about what you thought it was. And when you can unearth those really deep whys, those bigger reasons, then the cookies hold no power over you anymore at a certain point. It has nothing to do with the cookies, and you know it. So when you feel that urge to reach for cookies, you go, wait a second, it's not the cookies. What I'm looking for is validation, or I'm looking for love, or I'm trying to do X, Y, or Z. And that really, there's so much power in that idea. I love that you're focusing on the whys, because we gloss over those so often, and we blame the alcohol, or we blame the drive to the gym, so we skipped it, and we blame all the things outside of ourselves without taking that extra step of saying, well, you know, there's probably a reason for this, and there's something I can learn from this situation, instead of just blaming myself, beating myself up, and feeling that shame and recrimination. Figure out really what happened, what led up to that situation, why did it feel like that was the right thing to do, and then we can really learn from it.
Well, I've always said that like an onion, and you're peeling the onion layer by layer, getting to the inner core and getting that. Okay, why is that? All right, then break that down, and you keep going until you get getting a little deeper to figure out some root causes. But that's kind of what I became last few years is focusing on being a health detective and
Mm,
investigating clues and trying to put the missing pieces of a puzzle together to help figure out what a person's why would be, but more looking at the lifestyle, nutritional therapy, habits, food log, and the functional lab testing. But I love, putting what you're doing into that psychological part, because that's so much to it, that I have clients that are coming to me that work out, say, 3-4 times a day, and they're not eating anything, and they're doing too much fasting, and then their labs Dutch test and their thyroid panel and everything's like at the empty barrel. So I think it's always, putting all that together is really an investigator in health
mhm.
and wellness, and instead of just training people, writing their schedules out like we used to, is putting all that together to really help make a difference in an individual's life, because it's so personalized that way.
Yeah, I'm sure you've had the experience too, where you're sitting down with a client for the umpteenth time. They've come back to you because they need to they need to, I'm going to say in quotation marks, sign up for another race, because if they're not training for a race, they go completely off the rails and gain weight and never work out. So they're like, oh, okay, you got to train me for another triathlon because I put on a whole bunch of weight and I'm not feeling very strong anymore. And at a certain point, we have to accept responsibility and say, well, you know what, like, you clearly don't need another race. Like, we weren't put on this earth to do races in order to stay healthy and happy and feel okay about ourselves.
Mhm.
That's just the Band-Aid situation. So yeah, like, marrying what you're doing, that investigative sort of different type of why is your body behaving this way, and stuff, and then marrying it with the, what I always like to say, like, just healing our relationship with food and movement, I
Yeah.
think is such an important step, because our society has really set us up to only value food on its size and its price. Nothing to do with nutrition, nothing to do with how it makes you feel or anything like that. Is it huge and is it cheap? Those are the two selling factors. And then movement is often used as a way to be punished or do penance or to earn more food of a huge variety that's only $1. So we've got this very broken view of both food and movement. And until we unearth that and really get to the root of where those ideas came from and how we can change those beliefs that weren't probably even our beliefs to begin with. That's the thing about these beliefs, is we've been told as children by parents, teachers, like our physical education teacher in PE class, you drop and do 20 when you've been bad, or you have to do a lap if you're, like, it's punishment. It's clear.
Yeah.
It's out no punishment. And you get rewarded with treats, you get rewarded with cookies. So we've been set up to fail right from the beginning. So I think, like, without healing that, without actually really reestablishing a healthy relationship with food and movement, it's always going to be willpower that you're going to be holding on to in order to try to make these changes. It's never going to be rooted in a really strong why. You're not going to have that, when they always say the North Star, like your North Star to follow. So I think that's, these two ideas really go nicely together, and I think we can really make a difference in people's lives if they take that time to do both of those steps. And you don't have to hire people like me and Debbie to do this either. Just, like, start looking at your belief system behind, like, why do you say that you hate running? Why do you say that you want to, or you sign up for the gym but you never go? Like, look into those things and figure out where those beliefs, or where those ideas, where those limiting beliefs came from. Why do you go to the cookies when you feel bored and tired and lonely, instead of calling a friend? And then go and talk to Debbie about how you can then take the steps to actually make your body able to perform the way that you want it to. And I think we could have a really good
Yeah.
1-2 punch.
Well, that's what, as FDN practitioners, we learn what's called the DRESS for health success protocol. And that's diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplement program. So I always have to tell everyone, I've said for years that you can't out exercise a poor diet, but you can't
Yes.
out supplement poor lifestyle habits. So none of this is going to change. But what you're talking about is so essential to even start with your why, because I think so many people are in their head that they can't make those lifestyle changes until they've gone through figuring out what's going on inside, doing what I call the inner core work, and figure out their why, what drives them, and what's your passion and purpose and mission, almost in a personal way, to figure out like, why do you keep doing this stuff? Which is like, questioned, is it really helping you? Or what I keep saying, is it improving my future self? When I'm 10, 20, 30 years from now, what do I want to be doing? And what I'm doing now, is it helping me build who I want to be, the next Debbie Potts, and 10 years from now? When I turn 40. Just kidding.
I love when you turn 40. Benjamin Button over here.
Yeah.
I've never seen that movie. I'm not actually sure. Apparently he ages in reverse, but I have no idea. But anyway, the idea.
Squirrel, was that a squirrel? Yeah, you lost track.
Yeah, I shouldn't have brought Benjamin Button up. Now I'm screwed. No, you said something really, really important about
it's something. Not because you're getting older. Where's that brain that you didn't put the brain ketones?
I am so much more focused these days than I was when I was 20. I couldn't have had this entire conversation without running around the block twice. But what did you say? What were you just saying? Now we've really gone off track.
I can't help you. I forget.
No, it's the dress. That's right.
Oh yeah, dress for health success protocol.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Like, that is a really nice, neat acronym, and I think a lot of people are like, yeah, that really makes sense. Like those things, and especially, I need to get stress under control. I gotta get stress under control. I gotta get my sleep under control. But they don't really know what to do with those, and even if they do hear the things like sleep hygiene, just the basics of sleep hygiene, keep your room dark and cold, and what are the other things? Don't use screens too close to bed, and don't have caffeine or alcohol in the afternoon and stuff like that. They still won't necessarily do those things, because some of that stuff, we've got these beliefs around, that we've got these ideas that those are non-negotiable. It's like, well, I've watched TV in the evening my entire life, I'm not giving that up. Or I always have a cup of coffee after dinner, I'm not, that's just what I do. And taking these hard line approaches to things. And I was in a class for people who were recovering from heart surgery. This is way back when I won't get into the story, but I had some heart problems, and landed me in this class with a bunch of people who had things like quadruple bypasses and stuff. And they were giving us some nutrition advice. And this is in Canada. So one of the things was to like cut down on your creamer in your coffee, and sugar in your coffee, and don't have bacon and things like that. And this one person in the class just immediately just like slammed her fist down on the table and said, "I'm not giving up my Timmies." And I'm like, you had a quadruple bypass, you ninny. Like, what else can possibly happen to you to convince you that this lifestyle needs to be addressed, or you need to just look at what else you can do? But we have these beliefs that our life won't be worth living, that you'd rather die than give up your Timmies, which is a coffee with 2 sugars and 2 creams. That's a double. She refused to give that up. And of course we know that that's probably not why she had a quadruple bypass, but the point still stands that we do get these ideas in our heads that this is the stuff that makes my life worth living. And if I gave that up, well, what's the point? And it's a really sad existence if that's the only reason that you're keeping going. But at the same time, I have empathy for people who feel that way, because we were given these prescriptions by our parents, by our teachers, by social media. Well, not even social media. Like in our case, it was like Saturday morning cartoons programmed us to want to eat the sugary cereals, but shun vegetables. Like Bugs Bunny never, well, actually Bugs Bunny is a
bad example.
Yeah, he liked his carrots, but all the other cartoon characters always wanted the pizza and wanted the burgers and wanted the fries and wanted the sugary stuff, but never like, yuck, I'm not eating vegetables. So we're programmed from this really early age to think it's gross, to the point where we don't even give it a chance. And I had an aha moment, even like as enlightened as I am. I had I didn't want this to come across as even me, but I was having, we went out for lunch. I ordered a burger and fries, and halfway through the meal, my partner said to me, "Why do you always order fries?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, you never eat them. Like, why do you always order fries? You have like half of them and then they end up going back." And I'm like, because that's what you order when you get a burger, right? Like, you know, burger and fries. That's what happens. And it was kind of like this epiphany. It's like, you're right. I don't like French fries. Like, that's amazing. And that's given me this freedom now. Occasionally I'll choose to get the fries, but I'll make sure it's a small amount. But breaking that conditioning, that sort of pre-programming of burger and fries, that's what you order, and realizing that actually I do enjoy the salad or the Brussels sprouts or something else with my burger more than the fries, just gives you this freedom. But we can be so locked into those beliefs and that programming, that bad programming that we got at such an early age, that we don't even challenge it. We don't even bother to see, like, well, okay, I'm not supposed to have a double from Timmy's anymore, but what if I just had a single? What if I just put one cream and one sugar? Would that
What's
really,
that called?
I don't think it has a fancy name. It should, probably does. I'm not
Mini.
up on my Timmy's culture. Although apparently Justin Bieber has a new Timbit.
What's that? Yeah, that's from
I can't remember what the flavor is.
Oh, he's Canadian?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. Shamefully, yes.
Oh, because he's in Seattle all the time, but
okay. We claim Celine Dion, but you can have Bieber. But anyway, yeah, taking these moments to challenge those programming, rather than just saying, well, this is what I've always done, so that's non-negotiable. I think we can often open ourselves up to not only greater success, but just a more enjoyable life too, because we can expand our horizons beyond just the things that we thought we needed to do, or that we needed to eat, or the behaviors that we wanted to have. And like you said, looking at what my future vision for myself, my future me, my greater version of myself, looking at how would that person behave, and then start to behave that way.
Yeah, it's something Hardy, Dr. Hardy. He has a book, and it's a free program you can do online. I can send you the link, but it's 30 days to my future self. And you sign up for free if you get a referral from someone. And he sends like homework assignments every day for 30 days. And it's pretty cool because it makes you go, oh, who do I want to be? I can control that. What I'm doing now set me up for me 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Yeah, it's like James Clear says, every choice you make is a vote for the person you want to become.
Yeah.
And I think that is so wonderful, but so much power in our hands, because it's all about the choices we make on a daily basis, rather than great big choices that we've like said, I'm never eating flour again, or I'm like those big sweeping things. I mean, those can be impactful, but even more impactful is realizing that our life is just a string of choices. Everything that presents itself throughout the day, whether it's our meals, our exercise, or the way we react to somebody's comment, every behavior we do is a series of choices, and every opportunity that is presented to us is a chance for us to vote for that future self, for that greater version of ourselves. So we can stop looking at being on or off the bandwagon, that say, oh, well, I was supposed to be exercising, I was on a run streak, but I fell off the bandwagon, so now starting from scratch. Is like, no, every choice that we make is an opportunity to, if you really want to look at it that way, to be on or off the bandwagon. It's not a day, it's not a month, it's not a week, it's not, you don't have to wait for January 1st to get back on the bandwagon. The very next opportunity that is presented to you, all you have to do is make a choice that aligns with that vision for your future self, and you're back on. You're good. Just keep doing that. And sometimes you may decide to choose the opposite and go off, but with the knowledge that the next choice you're going to make is going to be in alignment with your greater goals. I think that is such a powerful thing, sort of coupled with the idea that Marcus Aurelius, I think, said this, or at least is attributed. Once again, don't want to attribute to the wrong person, but that's where I heard it, was that achieving true change is learning to tolerate momentary discomfort in exchange for long-term satisfaction. And it really comes down to that, like those discomforts of saying no to the donut that was presented to you, or doing that 15-minute workout or something. It's really just a blip in our lives, in our day, and even in our waking hours. It's a small amount of time. So that momentary discomfort, being able to realize that that is only temporary, but our long-term satisfaction, well, that's different. That's long-term. So just acknowledging the fact that making that hard choice is only temporary. It's just it's like, well, I really wanted that cookie, but nah, I'm going to hold out for the really nice dessert that I've got planned for dinner, or that Neil made the beautiful cake for for me, and I'm going to eat it later. I'm not going to blow my dessert on this. It's a momentary discomfort that leads to long-term satisfaction if you can look at each one of those choices throughout the day as an individual opportunity to move towards the greater vision for your future self. It's so simple when you break it down that way. It's like, just look at everything as it comes. Don't make sweeping statements or beat yourself up because you broke your run streak. Just take that next opportunity to make a vote for yourself.
Such a true expert podcaster, because I was going to ask next question to kind of tie that all together. the low carb athlete listener, and for those who are striving to burn more fat and improve their overall health and longevity, and as well as, of course, just performance gains. Everyone wants to get stronger, faster, and perform their best. But I think you just did. So good job.
Well, and I guess like I would tell them to slow down too. And this is obviously taking a page from your book, is to stop looking at this as being something that you need to get done today. Mm-hmm. Like, we're all going to, I posted something on Instagram the other day, and our mutual friend, Brad Kearns, actually commented on it and said, all of us are going to reach the finish line sometime. So why are you in such a hurry? And I was like, ooh, deep and also dark. If you look at the finish line as being death, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I think we are in an awful hurry to do things that shouldn't be rushed. And obviously the prescription that I just gave, the idea of just looking at each choice as an opportunity to make a difference, it's not a 30-day, 60-day, 90-day challenge. This is a rest of your life challenge. But that's okay, because we've got time. And why are you in such a hurry? You can't check it off your to-do list and then wipe your hands together and go back to eating bonbons on the couch. Like, this is the rest of your life. So make it sustainable, make it enjoyable, make it easy, make it part of your life.
Yeah. Just like probably what you're talking about, you're doing a podcast now called Second Wind Fitness, that it's kind of what we need to look at, not what am I doing today is just focus on right now, but focus on, is this helping me get where I want to get?
Yeah. I called it Second Wind Fitness because I think a lot of the people I've worked with anyway had sort of a success in their earlier years. Like, so they like either were on an intramural team in school, or they had the fitness regime, or their workouts were all sort of pretty well programmed, but then they got a full-time job and had a family, and it all kind of fell apart. But now we're getting to a point in our lives where we're realizing the importance of it and just trying to get that second wind. And so that's why I called it that, because I think it's kind of a fun way to look at it. It's like, okay, you may have lapsed a little bit, or maybe it's not optimal right now, but we've all got a second wind, and it's let's take that second wind and make it as effortless and as enjoyable as we possibly can. So it's not just about willpower, not just about searching for motivational quotes constantly on Pinterest, and make it just part of your day and part of your identity, really.
Yeah. Who you are.
Because that's the way it's going to stick.
So last parting words, how people can really take action this year and maybe look at things a little differently, starting with your mindset. And I talk about the holistic method to transform the whole you from the inside out, working on the 8 elements what would you suggest 3 things people can start with now, since this will come out beginning of the year? What are things you want people to start working on that's free, that they can do at home, anywhere? Get started now.
Well, I think we talked about the 5 whys, and I think that is something, that's a tool that you can apply to yourself, or that you can teach to a loved one. You can do it on each other. And whenever you reach those points where you find yourself putting your foot down, that my life isn't going to be worth living if I don't do this thing that clearly isn't leading me towards my better self, do those 5 whys and figure out what the real reason is behind it, because that's gonna lead you to a lot more success than just trying to white knuckle willpower yourself through it. And number 2, I guess, would be to realize that we have really been given a lot of beliefs that aren't our own beliefs about the things that we hold dear, about the things that we think are the most important aspects of our lives, and giving yourself the freedom to explore that and try something different. Try not ordering the fries with your burger, and see if you enjoy something else instead. Is a great freedom to give yourself. And I guess number 3 would be to go to wayless.life/mindset. I wasn't planning on unplugging this, but so much of the stuff that we just talked about, and this is a free course. It's a 7-day mini course that Monica Reinagel and I put together, which really explores the difference between like what you and I did sort of in the past, the really prescriptive, what we call the dieter's mindset, where like you adhere strictly to something. You're either on or off a diet, you're either on or off an exercise program, and dismantles that and gives you an alternative to that. So I think if you're looking for just a different way, a way to launch yourself into a different way of thinking, that sort of sums it up in a 7-day. It's only like 10 minutes long each day. It's not a big commitment, to just get yourself into a different mindset to approach this stuff.
That sounds great. Well, I'll put all the links into the show notes, and we can make sure that people will get there and listen to your podcasts. You've got 2 of them that come out weekly. Or
yeah.
How often do you?
Well, Change Academy comes out sort of sporadically. We didn't want to, again, this was a really great mindset for us to take. We're both busy people with different focuses. And if we gave ourselves some ambitious schedule, we knew that we'd not enjoy ourselves and maybe feel a little stressed out and resentful towards this thing that is really just a pet project. So we gave ourselves the freedom to just release episodes when we think, A, that we have something important to say, and B, when we have time to say it. So it comes out at least once every 10 or 14 days, but it's not on a rigid schedule at all. But that's a fun one. And then my fitness podcast does come out every Monday, and both of them can be found anywhere you listen to audio, as they say.
And there's so many now. When we started 10 years ago, you started before that podcasting, there was iTunes.
Listen to it on iTunes. Yeah.
So now we have multiple places. But sorry about my video. The sun is just breaking through the fog, and I definitely need to get a little privacy wall behind me
you get one of those folding privacy walls from the 30s.
That's a problem being in a glass house.
You have to hang a boa over it though. That's the mandatory boa hanging over.
A feather boa?
Yes, it has to be a feather boa.
Pink one.
A fabulous one.
So, all right. So it was so fun chatting with you and catching up. Hopefully people picked up some new things or some ahas that they might want to take action on. And, I write in a journal every night. My goals, minimal, just write 3 things that I want to be thankful for the day, and maybe take the opportunity to just start a little journal, blank notebook. I just keep my bedside table. And that's a great way to just get started. And if you have other thoughts, you want to do a mind dump, you've got that pen and paper right there. And I think that's really good. I've been reading this little book someone gave me for my birthday of 108 inspirational quotes to read. I've been reading that at night, just kind of open it up and whatever page I turn to, read that. So there's different things you can do. Like you said, not having specific goals for doing the podcast every week. Because I think when we put too many high expectations on ourselves, as with everything, we set ourselves up to failure and add another source of stress. So as with everything we're talking about, fasting, exercise, low carb, keto, carnivore, podcasting, doing a video every week. I mean, I do the same thing. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a YouTube video every week on my own. I lasted 2 weeks and I get sick of it. And like, okay, let's just not have any expectations and just let me do it organically whenever I feel inspired. And then I'll just like record right there, because I have to be in a certain frame of mind to do it, to have something to say and share, and then not get angry or frustrated or let down when it doesn't work out. Or for like me, when I look and go, okay, no one even listened to that. So, not give up, that you could still keep working on those goals until you get where you want, or just make it it's satisfying to me. I don't care if anyone listens to this podcast. I don't care if anyone watches my videos. That mindset's more rewarding and therapeutic and healing to me than saying, I'm going to not do this unless I have so many downloads or so many viewers on my videos. And just because that's not healthy for me. And that's another stress where I'm doing this, paying to do this because I feel inspired to pay this information forward to other like-minded, ambitious overachievers, that we need to share this information out there. So thank you for joining me on that journey.
Yes, thank you for having me on your journey and sharing your listeners with me, because it like you said, it doesn't matter if there's 5 of them, 10 of them, 20 of them, 100 of them. I always like to think of, if I had, like, it doesn't matter how small the audience is, if those people are willing to, let's say it was pre-COVID times and we could all gather in a place once a week, that would be such a gift to be able to actually have this room full of people come and show up and actually be interested enough to listen to what we have to say. It doesn't matter what the size of the audience is when you frame it that way. It's such a gift that people are allowing us into their ear holes.
Ear holes. Ear. So that is a good way to end. That if you want to ever break out of Canada, we have our guest room here, Brock, and you can come stay. We do have a great property here on our hilltop to host events, which when I first saw this house, I'm like, this is where I need to host networking events and little seminars and meetups like that, because it is 360-degree view over Elfin Forest and Lake Hodges and Rancho Santa Fe. Just behind us is Solana Beach, is kind of where I had to do everything else. But it is just, being able to meet in person, live events, are happening down here. You guys are a little more strict up there, but it's normal down in San Diego.
Well, I mean, if you're a hockey team, you can have as many people as you want in one place, but there's some other rules in place for things. But it's I'm happy with the way that things are progressing down here. I know there's a lot of dissonance and stuff, of course, but I'm also very lucky to live where I do. I've had access to trails and hikes and beach and everything for a year now. We've lived on Vancouver
You moved
Island.
When I did, because I remember we're comparing, like, okay, we both are moving for quality of life, outdoor living. And you definitely did that, but up Vancouver Island and paddleboarding year round.
And I'm still going for a cold dip every morning, even though the water is 6 degrees Celsius. I don't know. That's like 30, I think. Fahrenheit.
It's still cold. I go in the ocean water, but it's 60 degrees. So
it's cold.
It's 30.
I'm definitely nuts, but there's a group of people who like go down religiously to the water, not all together, but we'll often see each other going for a dip even in December. And it's such a great way to start the day. I know there's some science that some physiological responses like the brown adipose tissue and metabolic upregulating and maybe some immune system response and stress resilience and stuff like that. But when it comes right down to it, I just love it. Like it just feels good staring out at the water, staring out at the ocean. I saw some otters this morning swimming around. It's just, what a wonderful way to start the day.
Well, we'll have to do that in another podcast, because I'm going to do a podcast on cold immersion and cryotherapy, but also grounding and earthing, and just talk about the ideal day, like how we should start a day and end our day. And I think it's important to go through for athletes that are, just think working out in the morning and that's all they do. So Anyways,
you need to have that conversation with somebody who has children and a desk job, because the two of us we definitely have freedom.
No
that some other
kids, and we have
people
our own
don't.
schedule.
Yeah. I never want to be prescriptive of like, you should start your day this way, because I acknowledge I'm very lucky, and I've also made some choices in my life. You and I have both made choices in our life to set ourselves up for this type of life, but not everybody has those goals. So I don't want to be like, well, you're screwed.
Yeah. And I'm not working in an office anytime soon, 8 to 5. So that's not going to happen in my world. So anyways, I got to end our conversation, but so fun to have you on the show again. And I can't wait to see you in person sometime next year.
Woo.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us to continue to grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.